Hi there. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Anna, and today's class is going to be all about shoulder stability. And this is a huge deal because our shoulders are wildly mobile, and this is really great because we can do all of these huge movements that we need to do with our arms. But what that also means is that we need to prioritize some strength and support and stability for this joint that can maybe be a little bit vulnerable due to all of the movement that it has. So if you have two blocks, you can go ahead and grab them. If not, it won't be a big deal, so don't worry about it. But we're gonna get started off here in a comfortable seated position. So I'm gonna sit up on a blanket. You're welcome to grab a blanket or block or pillow if you like. And let's take your right hand to your left shoulder. So this is one of four joints in the shoulder, and we won't get into all of this today. But this is called the glenohumeral joint. And just have your hand on that joint as you begin to circle and just noticing what it feels like to start to move around this joint. And then we'll switch sides here. So left hand comes over to this right glenohumeral shoulder joint here, and we're just circling in that. And so I mentioned that there are multiple joints in the shoulder, not to confuse you and put a lot of information in your head, but just so you know that there are a lot of moving parts that go along with the shoulder, and we'll get into some of that as we move through some different positions today. So let's take your right hand again, maybe reach it around, and we're just feeling for the scapula or the shoulder blade on your back here. And then we're gonna keep circling with this left shoulder, but now I want you to feel like you're moving from that shoulder blade, that scapula on your back. And so we'll still feel, right, this shoulder joint right here moving, but now we also want to get that movement of the scapula involved. So it just feels a little bit bigger, and we're just sending some feedback to the shoulder blades and just kind of noticing what it's like to move there. Now you can reach around with the left hand and maybe feel around for the shoulder blade there and start to move in that right shoulder. And so the scapula, the shoulder blade on your back, is going to be hopefully flush with your rib cage. And so all you're feeling here is kind of like this slide and glide and movement of the shoulder blade on the back ribs. Awesome. So let's come down onto your back. And if you have your block, go ahead and grab that. And we'll take the block between your thighs. And we're going to set up for a bridge pose. So feet are on the floor, knees are bent, and just begin to lengthen your tailbone toward your heels. So you feel maybe your lower belly start to hug in there. And then you're noticing the back of the hips, the glutes, pushing up to lift your hips. So you don't want to feel crunchy in your lower back at all. Now let's take your arms, reach them straight up toward the ceiling. Palms will face in towards one another. And I want you to think about reaching your fingers straight up toward the ceiling like you were growing them longer. And notice how that pulls the shoulder blades away from midline. So that's called protraction of the shoulder blades. And then slide your shoulder blades back down like you're gonna touch the floor. And you'll notice maybe the arms get a little bit shorter. This is called retraction of the shoulder blades. So let's reach up and protract. And settle down, and we're just retracting a little bit there. So let's do that a couple more times. I'm just noticing a steady inhale and exhale through the nose. We're not trying to create a lot of rigidity with this, but just that gentle movement of the shoulder blades. Now let's reach the arms up. So we're pulling the shoulder blades away from midline, And keep that as you start to reach your arms up overhead. And now if you feel really unstable here, or you feel like you run out of room, or your ribs start to pop up, just don't go any further. And notice here that the shoulder blades now are sliding up your back a little bit. You can stretch out your wrist, taking the left hand back to the right fingers, pulling them back. And switching sides, your right hand pulls your left fingers back. Nice, easy breath. And we'll let the arms come down here. Slowly lower your spine down one vertebra at a time. We're going to keep the block as it is. Bring your hands behind your head. We're going to cup the skull and hug your elbows in. Take an inhale breath here. Exhale, lift up off the shoulder blades. Look down at your belly. Maybe even use your hands there. Draw the sides of your waist in and then pull everything down toward the floor. Inhale to lower back down. Exhale, come up off the shoulder blades. Right arm will reach it forward on the diagonal, and then reach the right fingertips longer like you just did, sliding that shoulder blade away from the spine. Hand comes behind the head. Inhale to lower. Exhale, lift up. Left arm reaches forward on the diagonal. Reach the fingers a little bit longer, pulling that shoulder blade away from the spine. Hand behind the head. Inhale to lower. Exhale, lift up. Right arm will reach. Reach the fingers a little bit longer. Lean your head back into your hands a little bit. Hug down more in the belly. Right hand behind the head. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift up. Left arm will reach. Reach it longer as you hug into center. Hand behind the head. Inhale, lower. We're going to add on one thing here. Exhale, lift up. Right arm will reach. Reach it longer and then turn slightly to the left. So the right arm is now like in line with your left thigh. Back through center. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift up. Left arm will reach. Reach it longer and then slightly turn through your midsection over to the right. Keep everything hugged in. Back through center and release. You can take this block off to the side and we're going to come around into a tabletop position. So we're on our hands and knees. I'm going to have a little padding for my knees here. That is something that you need as well. You can grab a pillow or a blanket. So in our tabletop, we've got the shoulders directly over the wrist and the hips directly over the knees. Now I'm spreading my fingers nice and wide and pushing down through the base of my index fingers. And already here, if you put your hand like right on your lower belly between these two front pelvic points, you want to feel a drawing inward there, like we're going to pull those two pelvic points together so that we're not getting this arch in the low back. Now, fingers are spread, pushing the floor away here. Now I'm going to keep my arms straight and start off by lifting in between my shoulder blades. So protracting there. And then doing the opposite of just softening my chest toward the floor, keeping my arms straight, keeping my lower belly drawn up. Now let's keep going with that. And just notice here, if you are really used to doing cat and cow, just notice how this differs from that. So we're not getting like this huge spinal movement, but we're trying to keep the lower body really steady, the lower spine steady, and isolate in the upper back. So smaller is usually going to be a little bit more difficult. And you're going to feel like you can maybe isolate a little bit more. So take your time there. And if you find this to be really difficult, just notice that and let it be something that you can return to. Now we can hold that protracted position, so the shoulder blades pulling away from the spine. Tuck the toes under, pike your hips for downward facing dog. You can always have your hands on blocks for this one, but bend your knees a little. You can be up on the toes, send the hip creases high, and then push the floor or the blocks away from you. So it's like you're pushing your arms longer, and keep holding your armpits up, right? So what I don't want to see is this kind of like collapsing of the chest back, right? Hold the armpits up, hold the ribs up. So your shoulders feel supported there. Let's take one more breath. And then we'll start to walk hands and feet forward, and we'll rise all the way up to stand here. So you are welcome to use your blocks or not for this next part. I'm going to show the first round with blocks, and then I'll show a round without blocks. So do whatever feels best for you. So we're going to start standing. So reach your arms forward, kind of protract the shoulder blades as you let the arms lift up. Notice that as your arms come up, we're letting the shoulder blades lift up as well, right? The shoulder blades have to lift anytime your arms are coming over your head. Now sit back into your hip creases. You can always put your fingers in there, plant the hands, step the right foot back, lower the knee, come onto the top of the right foot, and same thing here, arms forward and up. Wrap that right glute down. The right hip is directly over the knee. Both hands come down. We'll slide the left foot back, downward facing dog. So even here, you can practice that, pushing the blocks or the floor away, and let your shoulder blades slide up a little bit. You don't want to feel really congested in your neck, but you should feel the shoulder blades moving up toward your ears a tad. Step the right foot forward. Lower the left knee, come onto the top of the foot, and bring the arms up here. Got the left hip directly over the knee, the left glute wrapping down. Both hands come down, floor or blocks. Slide the left foot up next to the right. Rise to stand. Arms come forward and up. And we'll sit back into the hips. This time I'm going to show it without the blocks. We'll step the left foot back. Lower the knee, but not the toe. So keep the back toes tucked under. And this time we're just going to roll in the shoulders. And already just starting to feel maybe a little bit more awareness, especially of the shoulder blades on your back and just what it's like to really move them. We'll bring both hands down to the floor. Slide the right foot back, downward facing dog. Left foot steps forward. Right knee lowers. Keep the toes tucked under, and we'll begin to roll the shoulders. Notice how we can begin to involve the ribs a little bit, but we're able to really move with this space and this freedom because we're supported, right? We've got the glutes on, the pelvis is steady, spine is long, core is working. Bring both hands down to the floor. Or your block, step your right foot up next to your left. Rise to stand. So we're gonna add on some other stuff here. Bring your arms forward and up. Sit back into the hips. And let's step your left foot back. Lower the knee, but keep the toes tucked under. And you can bring your arms together at your sides. Left glute is wrapping down, hugging the front pelvic points together. So you should feel like really locked and loaded here. We're going to take the left arm, punch it forward, bring it back and take the right arm forward. So keep going with this. And notice that every time you're punching the arm, it's coming from that same side shoulder blade. So it's like you're growing your arm longer. Can turn in the ribs a little bit. right? And we're turning from kind of this mid-torso, right? We're not letting go of the pelvis. Now the next time your left arm is forward, we're going to bring the left hand down floor or block. Now I want your fingers spread, push down into the root of that index finger, and then pack this left shoulder back. So you can have the right hand on that left shoulder head, hug it in, and then lean back into this left shoulder. And maybe you take the right arm overhead or up toward the ceiling. With that left hand, maybe you push the floor away a little bit. And you can feel even here, like your arms are growing out of your scapula on your back, and that they're strong and you have a lot of power there. We'll bring the right hand and the right knee down to the floor, so we're back in tabletop. Fingers are spread, roots of the index fingers pushing down. Now, let's protract in the shoulder blades, so spread the scapula apart, and then do the opposite, retract. And now find that space right in the middle. So we're not protracted or retracted, but we're settling into neutral. And you can imagine that you were going to drag your hands back without actually moving them. So it just kind of helps to integrate the shoulder a little bit more there. Keeping the front pelvic points drawn in. Keep your throat lifted up. So I don't want to see chins coming forward here. Chin is down and your whole face lifts up. Now we're going to see if we can maintain all of this. I know it's a lot. See if you can step your right foot back and then your left foot back. So we're in our plank here. And this is hard, right? Because we are holding a neutral scapula, the core is on, the glutes are on, and it's a lot of work. Now lower your knees just straight down. So we're not in tabletop here, we just lower the knees from plank. Now, push into the hands. Throat is lifted. We're hugging the shoulder blades down. Without changing this, bend your elbows straight back just a little bit. And lift up. My arms are shaking too. Let's do it again. Bend the elbows. Straighten and take a little rest in child's pose. Let's come back up into tabletop. And maybe you just sit back, give your wrists a little shake. There's a lot of time on the hands. And then we'll set up downward facing dog. Round the upper back, and then pike the hips up. Let's walk your feet forward and come all the way up to stand. All right, one more side here. Let's bring your arms forward and up. Sit back into the hips. Hands come down, and we'll step the right foot back this time. Lower the knee, keep the toes tucked. Arms at our sides. Right glute is on, wrapping down, hip points are buckled in, and we start to punch. And feeling that movement come from your shoulder blades on your back, like you could grow that arm longer. You can get a little turn in the ribs. Just noticing that freedom that comes from really holding things together. Let's do one more round here. Right arm comes forward, right hand comes down to the floor. Now spread the fingers there, and you can pack this right shoulder down. So we hug it in, lock it in place. And then as that's hugged in, you can lean back into the shoulder blade to take your left arm up. And feel as you push the floor away, it's like both of your arms are reaching from your shoulder blades. Just let your neck relax there. One more breath. We'll bring the left hand down, the left knee down. We're going to set up that plank here from tabletop. So fingers are spread, throat is lifted, shoulder blades hug down. Now we're not sinking here, we're not rounding, okay? Lower belly's drawn up. Now hold it there. Maybe take left foot back, right foot back. Glutes are squeezing. Neck is long. Lower the knees straight down. It's the same thing as last time. Bend your elbows just a little and keep the fronts of your shoulders lifting up. Straighten your arms. Bend your elbows. Fronts of the shoulders stay lifted as you lower slowly. Don't let your shoulders dive forward. Woo, nice. Now, you're gonna bring your arms back and your palms can face up here. So I want you to root your tailbone down toward your heels so you feel some support on the front of your belly. And then we're gonna lift the arms here, draw the shoulder blades slightly in and lift the fronts of the shoulders here. Lower that back down. We're gonna do that about 4 more times. So lift the arms up by drawing the shoulder blades together on your back and lifting the fronts of the shoulders. And that action is gonna happen together in like a little rhythm. Lift up, shoulder blades together, fronts of the shoulders lifted. I think we have 2 more there. And we'll lower all the way back down there. So from here, nice and easy, we're just gonna roll over onto our backs. And from your back here, pull your knees into your chest. And then we'll take it right over to the left. So we've got the knees in nice and close. And then if you like to, can take that right arm over to the right. And maybe it's dynamic there, taking the arm over to the right, back over to the left, or maybe you just hold it over to the right. And you could also put like a pillow or a block or a blanket underneath that right shoulder as well. Nice. Let's come onto your back again. Pull your knees in nice and snug. Take it over to the right. And then same thing, left arm can reach over to the left, over to the right, going back and forth there, or you could just hold it over to the left. And as you're ready, roll over onto your back. We'll just take a brief Shavasana here. So you can have your knees bent or your legs straight. If there are any props you would like to use, maybe something behind your knees, if you want a blanket. Just set yourself up in any way that feels natural and comfortable and easy. Notice your breath there. Notice both shoulder blades on your back on the floor. Notice their strength and their support. And allow yourself to lean into that. And let your next breath be a little bit deeper. And begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. And as you're ready, just make your way over to your side. You can hang out there for a moment or two. And eventually we'll meet back up in a comfortable seat. And take a moment here. Check in with how you're feeling. Noticing maybe a difference in your shoulders and even just your awareness of them and how they move and how we can begin to optimize that so that we can hold on to our strength, our support, our center, so that we can begin to move in bigger and bolder ways, both in our yoga practice and in our lives. Well, thank you so much for practicing with me today. This one was a little bit of a doozy, so let it be something you revisit, and you'll start to get stronger and build more awareness, and it will get easier. So as always, if you enjoyed this class, please give it a thumbs up and can hit subscribe so that you will get a little notification when I post new classes. Otherwise, thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time.